The Fargo Five. I'm Conrad Fargo. We are moving into Fargo fun stuff to do in Fargo, interesting stuff to do in Fargo. We have today as our guest PizzAndy. That's a mashup of the word pizza and Andy. Sometimes I like to call him affectionately by his full name, Pizzeria Andrew. Hello, Pizzeria Andrew.
My legal name.
Yeah, your legal name. Mr. Andrew, you are the Fargo Bitcoiner, kind of happenstance. You would just kind of hang out with the right people at the right time, small, intimate group. The other two people have left town. And so now you hold that moniker as the Bitcoin guy in Fargo, which there might be some listeners who would disagree with that, but you've got
They're welcome to. You just have to, never shut up about it. That's really all it takes. It doesn't take much.
Well, all it really takes is showing up.
Just showing up. You show up, you want to talk about it. That's really all it takes.
So it's, meeting up, just networking. I love networking so much. I'm a realtor at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Premier Properties, and I'm legally out. Here's the thing: it's an insanely regulated industry. I'm legally obligated to mention my broker's full name every time I mention that I'm in real estate.
Good plug.
So I can't. I can't get out of it. What I was going to say is what I learned in real estate was how important, because before that, I was telling you I had almost a different personality. I was a real jerk. I didn't really have any friends, but I learned the value of meeting other people, networking with them, knowing, liking, and trusting them, just putting that face to face and then being like, hey, I got some resources for you. You got resources for me. There's so much that we have to just give each other. I could build something all by myself, and that's how I lived my life up until I got into real estate. I would just, whatever I want, I just build it myself. I'll just work really hard and buy it myself and build it myself. But what networking taught me was that someone will just give it to, there's so much wealth out there in the world that people will just give to you because they don't need it. And it's useful to you, and they're happy to do a favor for a friend. And so the value of friendship is amazing, and that is what networking is. I think people hear networking, they don't know what it is. So you run a networking event for Bitcoiners.
Yep.
I don't know if that's how you would describe it.
It's a social gathering. It's a meetup group. It's a place where you talk about your esoteric interests, and everyone's real cool about it. And it's a great time. So,
but Bitcoin isn't. You're in love with Bitcoin, but it is a source of wealth. Hello.
It is, yep, and that's what gets a lot of people interested in it. And whatever gets you in there, doesn't really matter.
Well, I tell you what, I have a long history of not showing up to the Fargo Fun events because I don't leave the house. So I always warn my guests not to take it personally because I got 3 kids. But I do a lot of networking because that's how I make my living. I think you got me on the hook for the Bitcoin meetup, so I'm especially interested for you to really paint the picture. So when is it? Where is it? What's it like? Tell us all about it.
So our meetups are currently the second Thursday of every month. We meet at Brewhalla. It's a pretty loose gathering at the moment. We have people show up. We discuss current events within Bitcoin. Sometimes it gets a little political. Sometimes it gets a little economics based or social based. It runs the whole gamut. And, sometimes we're just hanging out talking about whatever. But more often than not, we're there talking about Bitcoin. And like I said, second Thursday of every month. Our next one's coming up here in January. It'll be January 9th.
And what time is it?
It's at 7 o'clock at night at Brewhalla.
7 o'clock at night.
And Brewhalla the second Thursday of every month.
This is the only Bitcoin meetup in town. There's really, are you aware there's no competitors to you?
No competitors that I'm aware of, and if there are, I'd happily hear from them, and let's talk.
Well, so this one happens 7 o'clock at night, so I did not register with me until this very moment. That's tough for people with kids.
That's tough with people that's tough for people with kids. Yeah. I expect we'll have some events that are at other times as well that are a more formal engagement where we have a speaker that's presenting on a particular topic. That's future plans.
And so we go to Brewhalla. If no one's been to Brewhalla, it's this really big. How do you describe it? It's like food court.
It's like Fargo's version of Chelsea Marketplace. Basically,
okay. I don't know what that is.
It's a marketplace in Manhattan.
Okay,
it's a place. There's a lot of individual shops and restaurants and food.
And beer. I mean, you walk right in there and you just get a beer.
Yeah, you just get a beer.
I love going there to meet people because we can always change speeds. So like I can invite somebody there for a coffee, and then if things are going really well, we can get a meal, or if we want to loosen up, we can get a beer. Like it's great.
And there's a hotel upstairs, I think, if you get real crazy.
I like the way you think. So Brewhalla is great. So we're walking in there at 7:00 on a Thursday. Is it pretty busy? I've only been there during the day because I can't get out at night. I got kids.
It really depends on what else is going on there. It seems very variable. I've seen it packed. I've seen it just dead
on a Thursday night.
Thursday, yeah. It just really depends on what else is going on.
Friday and Saturday, I bet that place is hopping.
Yeah, I'm not a go to a hopping place kind of guy generally, so I stay away from places like that on Friday.
No, when I was a single young man, I would even find myself at the OB from time to time. I mean, I am really, the walls there could talk. Yeah, for real. I wish the Brewhalla had been around when I was.
It's a bit more mature than the OB in a sense.
I'll bet. But
that's one way to put it. Nothing against the OB.
I'm just trying to imagine it at midnight on Friday. Like I just wonder what it's like there.
I guess we'll both have to speculate.
Because you don't ever go. You only go on Thursdays at 7. Does this last for like an hour?
It's 2 hours long. I mean, you can leave whenever you can leave whenever you feel like. I'm not gonna.
Is there any structure at all, or is it really just like
it's very loose? If we were having more people, I would absolutely make it more structured. But if it's like 5 or less people, you can just keep it pretty loose. But anything more than that, we'll get more structured with it.
And what's the common denominator? Like I said, I do a lot of my own networking during business hours and often with other business owners or salespeople. What kind of people? Because yourself, even though you're the Bitcoin guy in town here, you're not self-employed.
It's not yet. It's a whole gamut of people. Like you get people who from all walks of life. You get people who are engineers. You get people who are like they just have a regular job. Like they work for a lawn company or a stump removal service or just anything. Like these people from all walks of life have come to our group before just to ask questions. And that's fine. That's what we want. We want people to come. We want them to come with questions that they can get answered and leave knowing more than they came in with and feeling a little bit more confident in their decisions.
Okay.
Regarding Bitcoin.
So what's the most number of people you've ever had since you've been doing this? Since you've been doing this you've been doing it 2018 when it was just you, Eric, and Alex.
I think that we've had like 10 people is the highest I've seen it. Yeah. Supposedly it was higher before I showed up.
Were they consistently 10 people? I mean, at any one time, was there any like a regular number of 10 people?
Not consistently, unfortunately. People got lives. Like you said, 7:00's kind of hard time for some people to get out and talk to others.
Absolutely. Well, and I don't think most people like networking. If you can get 5 people to consistently show up in a room, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And there's some really powerful things that you can do just when you're sharing resources, sharing ideas, education, that kind of thing. So is there anything really exciting that's come up? Maybe some ventures from it or business ideas that you can talk about? Or?
Well, personally, my biggest industry is in the heat reuse segment of Bitcoin, which we can get into if you'd like.
Sure.
So for those not privy to the information, is a little refresher. Bitcoin is a digital currency. It operates entirely on the internet. And in order to secure transactions on Bitcoin, this is very high level, there are industrial spaces filled with computers which process these transactions and use a lot of electricity and generate a lot of heat, which generates a lot of criticism from people. That's besides the point. The important part is these computers generate heat, and heat isn't always a waste product. Sometimes heat is something you want. And the best way to recycle something is to give that waste product value. So I'm in a very niche group of people who are taking these computers and repurposing them for the sole sake of generating heat.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin is the byproduct. Yeah. Bitcoin is the quote-unquote waste product in that process. Since it uses the same amount of electricity to run an electric space heater as it does a Bitcoin miner. But one generates Bitcoin and the other one is just wasteful.
Well, and people criticize the electricity used to run Bitcoin, but I mean, hello, the entire banking system uses how much real estate and man hours, as well as just like the electricity to heat the bank.
I always love the argument people give of, what are you going to do when the grid goes down and you can't use Bitcoin? I'm like, what are you going to do when the grid goes down and you can't use dollars?
Yeah, right. Yeah, like
Your credit card's not worth much without it.
Yeah, right. My wife and I, we talk, almost romantically, not romantic. It's like a hobby. It's like it's not nothing we take seriously. So I would not call us doomers and preppers, but we love just like talking about it because it's fun and it's
fun.
It's interesting to just be like, well, what would you do? And like to have a collection based on that, right? So like I like owning, I own some walkie-talkies, I own some weapons, just because it's like a collecting baseball cards.
It's fun.
Or it's just fun to like learn about it and think about it.
Whatever.
Yeah. And like something we keep coming back to is that it's a long ways down. Like where we're at society-wise, like to go from here way down there would take something pretty dramatic and would have insanely dramatic results. I'm not saying it's impossible, right? Like a giant EMP or an asteroid or a nuclear weapon goes off. Yeah, these things, or Yellowstone, right? Like these things could happen, but like the real thing to prep for is something like, I don't know, something of unknown origin comes along and then everything shuts down for 2 weeks, right? Like that's the real thing to get ready for, right? Like, and in those instances, we still have an internet. We still have Bitcoin. We still have credit cards. Like we still have all of these other things, right? But maybe you just can't leave the house, or maybe, the cell phones, like that is something I could imagine actually happening.
I would. In which case, you should probably stock up on toilet paper again. We don't need a repeat of that.
Well, who says I didn't? I got a whole room.
Touche.
I got a whole room filled with toilet paper.
Two-ply, touche.
So, all right, one more time, and then we'll move to the next segment. When and where is it? And yeah.
Second Thursday of every month. The next one is January 9th, Thursday, at Brewhalla at 7 p.m.
All right. We'll see you then. Go out to our break, and we come back. Fargo Fresh, so don't go nowhere.